Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining our presentation here. My name is Tricia Palmer. I am the Warning Coordination Meteorologist here at the National Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg. Our presenter today is our meteorologist, Clay Cheney, who will be talking to you about winter weather and winter weather safety. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to Clay, and I'll turn my camera off. We're hoping for this to be a very interactive presentation with some polls in there, so I hope you enjoy it.
All right, well, as Tricia said, I'm Clay Cheney, meteorologist here at the Greenville Spartanburg office. And it's sweater weather, so if you're ready, I'm ready to go, and we'll go ahead and get this presentation going. So first of all, we are the National Weather Service. Here's our area of responsibility, Western Carolinas, 6 counties in Northeast Georgia. Our mission is to protect life and property. And we are also available 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 366 on a leap year. So we're here all the time. And we're also part of the federal government under the Department of Commerce, the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So that's kind of where we're from. And here are the winter weather hazards that we're going to dive on into. So first of all, we have snow. Of course, that's mostly everybody's favorite. Not everybody is a snow lover. I am, of course, but so we'll talk about snow and sleet, freezing rain, black ice, cold temperatures. And then these next 3 we're bringing in just because they happen pretty frequently in our area during the winter time. So I felt like it was kind of necessary to make sure we talk about strong winds, fog, and flooding. So to start out, how do you make snow and ice? Well, first of all, you need some kind of source of moisture, which we typically get ours from the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic. And also, of course, you need cold temperatures to make winter weather. So if you don't have cold temperatures, then that's half of the equation. Don't have half the equation, you're not going to get your answer. Then you also need some kind of lifting mechanism to form those clouds and precipitation, such as a frontal boundary or some kind of orographic lift from higher terrain. All right, so we'll dive into the types of winter precipitation. So we have snow, sleet, freezing rain, and rain. Unfortunately, our most typical type of winter precipitation is rain. But we do have our winter weather scares, so we need to talk about them just to make sure we're prepared for when the time comes in case of a winter storm. So we have snow, and of course, that's where the layer through the atmosphere where the temperature is below 32 degrees, so it's not able to melt the actual snowflake. And to kind of give you a better indication, when we as meteorologists look at kind of the temperature profile, we look from the surface to roughly 13,000 feet in the air, you know, give or take. So it all depends during that layer and how much melting is there, if there's none at all, on whether or not what kind of precipitation you're going to get. So for sleet, of course, you got a shallow layer to where it's able to melt the snowflake, but not completely. So there's a droplet, but it still keeps its ice nuclei. And then at the surface where it's freezing, it's able to freeze back into that sleet pellet. Freezing rain, it completely melts the snowflake and forms into just a rain droplet. But once it actually makes contact with the surface, it's able to freeze and makes that glazy look. And then rain, yeah, rain is rain. So here are vertical profiles. This is what we look at as meteorologists. So when we're trying to make a forecast, these come in very handy. So on the left, we have snow. And kind of to highlight this, we have the red line here that kind of indicates the freezing line. So anything to the left of it is below freezing, anything to the right is above. And you see snow, the red line that goes through this profile is kind of the actual temperature that's going through the layers, like from the surface to the upper layers of the atmosphere. And you can see that entire column is below 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Going into sleet, and you can see indicated by the black lines right there, that's where your temperature is actually above freezing, and that's where you get some of that melting, but it's very shallow. So in this case, we have a warm layer depth of around 3,000 to 5,000 feet. So that's the layer in the atmosphere that is above freezing. And then for freezing rain, you can see it's much deeper than the sleet profile, and that usually indicates around 6,000 to 8,000 feet in terms of the warm depth layer, and that's where it's able to melt that snowflake completely through. So we'll get on into snow. Here's our map of kind of the average annual snowfall for our area, and you can definitely pinpoint the difference in terrain. So most precipitation begins in the form of snow. Even in the summertime, one thing that, really wouldn't would kind of be like a shallow layer of moisture that's at the close to the surface that'll give you some drizzle. But other than that, for the most part, it starts out as snow. And of course, we all know it remains below freezing through the atmosphere. There are different types of snow events to go over: snow showers, snow squalls, blowing snow, blizzards, and flurries. And we'll go more into depth with those here soon. And here are some fun facts about snow. And yes, it has snowed in all 50 states, believe it or not, even Hawaii and Florida. So here's the average annual snowfall for our area. Here's our three main metropolitan areas: Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Nashville. And I threw Mount Mitchell up there. That's the highest elevation mountaintop that we have in our area and east of the Mississippi River, and they get a lot of snow. It can start snowing there as early as October and continue to snow through the winter season and even into May. And you can see they have a grand total of 92.3, while the other three are not even in double digits. So there's an extreme difference there between those areas. So snow types, once again, going back to it, you have blizzards. This is where sustained winds or frequent gusts of 35 miles per hour or more with snow and or blowing snow, which this is kind of a worst case scenario for our area. A matter of fact, our last blizzard warning that we have issued here was February 10th of 2010, and that was for all the mountain counties bordering the Tennessee, North Carolina line, and also Buncombe County. So that's a rarity here. But we also have blowing snow, snow squalls. That's typically not going to occur in our area, but I have highlighted snow showers and flurries. Of course, those are our typical kind of snow events. And here we are. I have this funny video. This is just to make sure during winter weather you are aware of your surroundings at all times.
Play is tunnel and snowbanks near the road. A few years ago, one boy.
Oh man, that's great. Great stuff. So, and of course, our typical snow and ice events outside of the mountains, and they kind of look like this unless we just have a big winter storm coming. But we still need to be aware of the dangers and impacts from it. But first, let's go to a lighter note in measuring snow. And also, if you want to be a part of our observation system, you can always follow these 6 steps and report it to us, and we'll put it in our database, and it helps us out a lot. So go by with supplies. You need a whiteboard and a ruler. Find somewhere that's not under any trees or anything that would hamper your results, and measuring the snow, and make sure to do it as soon as the snow stops so it doesn't melt instantly. And then of course report it to us through social media or on our website. So just a little bit going into more depth with sleet. There's our shallow warm layer, and you can tell that it doesn't completely melt the snowflake, but otherwise sleet is not our friend. It's actually more dangerous than snow on road surfaces. And in general, 1 inch of sleet is the equivalent to 4 inches of snow. And sleet being tiny ice balls, it can make it harder for car tires to gain traction on the roads. So that anytime there's any form of ice, it's not a good sign. And then we go into freezing rain. Same thing. Like I said, it freezes on contact. So especially on trees and power lines and stuff, once you get a certain amount of ice, it can bring it down and make the situation around us pretty bad and knock out power. And we don't want that. So we don't like freezing rain. It's not our friend. And also just to keep in mind that there is freezing drizzle. So if you know the temperature is below freezing, and even if it's very, very light rain, it may seem falling out of the sky, then you need to drive like you're driving on ice, because it's going to freeze on contact. It's going to cause a layer of ice on the roadways, and can cause pretty bad hazards. So, and here's just an example of some freezing rain. Pretty cool stuff. It's cool to look at, but it's pretty dangerous overall. And then, of course, black ice. We get that around here pretty frequently. You know, anytime you know there was some kind of precipitation, whether it's snow or ice or rain, and then at night, you know, the temperature is going to be freezing. You know, make sure that you keep in contact with what we're doing, and if we have any products out for black ice, that can be dangerous on the roadway, and it's really hard to see too, so it'll sneak up on you. Trisha, if you want to pull up the first poll question, I think. Let's see.
All right, we have a poll for you guys. So please select your answer. Can thunder occur when it's snowing? I'll give it just a couple of minutes. All right, it looks like just about everybody's in, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. And there's our results. So 88% of people are saying yes, and 13% of people are saying no. All right, so I will pass it back over to you now, Clay.
All right, and the answer is yes, you can get thunder and snow, especially in like heavy bands of snow. And it actually does happen here, surprisingly. Might happen here more often than you think. So just keep that in mind as well. But now I'm going to run through some of our winter storm products. This is where we're able to issue these out, and you're given kind of a indication of what's going to happen. First, I'll run through a winter storm watch. So these are typically put out 36 to 48 hours before an event, maybe even longer than that, depending on how confident we are. And that's just making sure to take the extra precautions and be prepared. Then run through a winter weather advisory. Now this is where we're expecting light wintry precipitation. We usually issue these under 36 hours before the event. And this is where we expect the winter precip, but it doesn't meet the criteria as a winter storm warning, which I'm gonna go into now, which is where we're confident that significant impacts are gonna happen for any kind of winter weather event. So this just kind of reiterates what I was talking about, and we even have blizzard warnings, as I was alluding to earlier as well. And once again, all of these are typically issued 12 to 36 hours prior to the event. And so if there's one out, definitely take the extra precautions. So we're going into our 12-hour winter weather advisory criteria. So as you can see in the mountains and foothills, it's around 2 inches. And east and south of that, out into the Piedmont and the upstate of South Carolina, it's typically around 1 inch. And a 12-hour period is where we would issue our winter weather advisories. Going into the winter storm warning criteria, this is for a 12-hour period. For our mountains and foothills, it's 4 inches. And for the upstate and the North Carolina Piedmont, it's 3. And for our Georgia counties, it's actually 2. So it varies. It's a wide variety between different zones in our CWA. And then for the 24-hour winter storm warning criteria, we actually have 5 inches for the mountains, 4 inches in the upstate and Piedmont, and 3 inches for Northeast Georgia. And then I'm gonna run through quickly freezing rain advisories, and then I'll go more into depth on what that is. So if we're expecting any kind of glaze, basically a glaze of ice, then we will put out a freezing rain advisory. And that just kind of highlights where we are on this map. And then an ice storm warning, this is where we actually are expecting, we're confident that 1/4 of an inch of ice is actually going to occur. And that can cause really dangerous to almost impossible kind of getting out and about on the roadways, it makes a really big mess, and that's where you get a good majority of your power outages. All right, just running through, kind of reiterating once again what I said. Travel is dangerous or impossible. Expect power outages during any kind of ice storm warning, and even in freezing rain as well. So keep that in mind. And we can actually measure ice, and you can do it from home. One method is to find a flat surface and measure ice accumulation with a ruler. And another one is to take an icy branch, measure the amount of ice accretion on each side of the branch, and then average the two out. And once again, if you feel like doing that, then you can go ahead and send us your reports as well, even with ice. All right, so winter weather safety. How do you prepare for all of this? I just ran through all of the winter weather hazards and how they form and kind of the criteria that we throw out for our products, but what can you do at home? And so I'll run through that. And first, of course, check your latest forecast for our area. You can check in with our office and on our website. And then you can also plan accordingly based on the expected weather conditions. I always highly suggest preparing for the worst case scenario. And have a winter weather survival kit in your car if you must travel from your house. We always recommend not, but we know sometimes you can't help it. And so always be prepared with that. And also have one for your home. Dress appropriately. You'll need the necessary layers depending on how cold it is outside and what's falling out of the sky, basically. All right, and then make sure your phones are charged and that all your other technological devices are also charged and ready to go, especially in any case of kind of power outage. Also check on your friends and family and neighbors of sort. You know, maybe they need some kind of help from your side, and maybe there's something you can do to help them prepare as well. And of course, call 911 for any emergency situations. All right, effective ways to prepare for winter weather. Well, of course, I went through preparing a survival kit, fuel up all the vehicles, prepare to lose power, and also stay aware of the forecast. And I guess if you want to make a quick mention, don't forget your milk and bread to have your milk sandwiches. But and also, of course, if you're going to prepare, please don't do a snow dance. You're just putting yourself at risk. Wear your pajamas inside out. I prefer mine inside in or outside in. Panic or denial. All right, so what can go wrong? This is fairly important because we always get lost in what can go right and what we need to do and thinking that we are fully prepared. But what are the things you should consider that could go wrong? You're not prepared to lose power. You're not prepared to lose power for an extended amount of time. You can't just assume that the emergency personnel is going to come help you immediately. They have a lot of other people that they have to attend to, and also it's just treacherous to travel, so it's going to be pretty hard to get to you right when you need help. And make sure that you prepare for the worst case scenario. That is very important when it comes to any kind of winter weather. And always have the kit. So I'm just running through one quick slide of carbon monoxide just because in general, this is one of the #1 killers in America when in the winter. You know, people will park their cars in the garage, heat it up, and to, you know, before they head out or whatnot, or just to make things warm in general. And then they forget that they're in the garage and it gets caught up, and we all know what happens after that. So just never operate equipment in a closed space, and even burn charcoal inside your house, vehicle, or garage to stay warm. Never operate equipment where people are sleeping. That's a big one because it's a silent killer. You can't smell it or anything. It's a deadly one. So we'll now go through the safety kit for what you can have at your house and in your car and any kind of winter weather. First of all, we'll start at home. Of course, you need food, water, medication, flashlight, and first aid kit. These are kind of the basic materials that you'll need anytime we're going through any kind of winter weather, whether it's something light or something heavy, it's always good to have this stuff at your house. And also in your car, warm clothes in case you get stranded on the roadway somewhere, blanket, food, water, and cell phone, and a cell phone / charger. All right, and what about driving in the winter weather? What are ways you can keep yourself safe during this scenario in case you do actually have to go out in it? First of all, slow down. We all know that if you drive fast and you hit a slick spot, you're going to go sliding everywhere. Also, keep 2 hands on the wheel. You don't want to lose control of your vehicle. Also, distance yourselves from any other vehicles, no matter the case. You don't know what that person's doing in front of you, and you don't know what's in front of them. So it's always good to distance yourselves. Also, keep an eye out for debris. You know, power lines will come down, and tree branches, and full-size trees even. So it's always good to, especially on back roads, to be aware of that. And then winter weather driving, this is just some facts here. Each year, weather-related crashes cause more than 6,000 deaths and 480,000 injuries. So it's always good to be weather aware when you're out driving. All right, Trisha, I think I'm ready for the next poll question.
All righty, so here is our second poll question. And again, we'll give it a few seconds to see if get everybody's votes in. So the question is, true or false? Sleet is not included in snowfall measurements. All right, we'll give it another couple of seconds. Votes are coming in. Oh, they're coming in fast and furious now. Okay, we'll go ahead and close it and share the results. It's pretty close.
All right.
All right.
So the results are in. And so the question is sleet accounted for when you make snowfall measurement? And the answer is, well, the answer to that question is actually false. It is a part of our snowfall measurement. And typically, like we alluded to earlier in the presentation, that sleet, 1 inch of sleet is equivalent to 4 inches of snow. So now, especially around here, that actually puts a damper into some of our snowfall totals because we always have the warm nose that wants to produce some sleet, and it'll end up messing up with some of our snowfall totals. But now we're going to move on to cold temperatures because, of course, like I said, that's half the equation when it comes to winter weather. So we need to dive in a little bit more into that. So, of course, dress in layers, cover exposed skin, and limit time outside, especially during extreme cold events. It can cause hypothermia and frostbite. Pretty sure you guys are aware of that. Also, anytime we do have an extreme cold event, one of the products we'll issue are wind chill warnings, watches, and advisories. And so we'll actually go into those here soon. Just wanted to give a quick update of the average monthly temperatures for, once again, our 3 areas in Mount Mitchell. And you can see that we're typically in the 60s, low 60s in November, and temperatures drop off fairly quickly going into December and January, and starting to rebound a bit in February. And you can see the extreme case in Mount Mitchell. Yeah, it's another world up there. So dressing for the cold. So what should you wear? So when it's chilly outside, you want 1 to 2 layers, maybe a hat, some warm shoes, long layered, so pants. When it's cold, you want to add on the gloves, maybe add an extra layer or 2, and some waterproof boots. And then for the extreme, you want to add another layer on top of that. And just make sure you're bundled up, maybe even add a scarf or stuff to protect your face and ears, and just to be sure that you're out of the cold weather. So the science of wind chill. So whenever we do talk about wind chill, under any kind of calm conditions, without any wind, we're typically fine. Without it, or with wind, that's where we have a higher risk of catching hypothermia and getting sick from the cold. and losing a lot of body heat. And also, just to make a mention, don't forget your pets when it's cold. Our furry sidekicks need to be warm and placed in a good area with food and water as well. So here's some of our cold weather products. We have wind chill watches and wind chill advisory and warnings. Wind chill watches is kind of similar to the winter weather. It's just dealing with the cold air. So that's where dangerous cold is possible, and we're forecasting for it. Advisory is when cold weather is expected, but it's not warning criteria, which we're going to dive into here soon. And of course, if you have a wind chill warning, then that's just a dangerous situation in itself. So wind chill advisory criteria for the mountains, it's actually, and these temperatures are actually in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. It's actually -5 to -20. It's kind of the advisory criteria for the mountains and foothills. And for everywhere else outside of there, it's 0 to -15. And then for warning, for the mountains, it's -20 or less. And for anywhere outside of that, it's -15 or less Fahrenheit. So here's our wind chill chart where we base what the actual temperature feels like. Of course, this is not the actual temperature. This is also involving wind speed and how that can cause the temperature to feel like it's colder than what it actually is. And so here's the chart that we usually base it on, and even has some frostbite times in case it got to that extreme. And of course, this is just another reminder, don't forget your pets. We can't forget them. Trisha, I think I'm ready for the next one. For the next poll question, pretty sure it's on wind chill.
Yeah, I think I got them backwards. You want the wind chill one now, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So with a temperature of 5 degrees Fahrenheit and a sustained wind of 20 miles per hour, what do you guys think would be the wind chill? We'll give it another second. There's still some people that haven't voted. All right, that's pretty much everyone. So I'll share that, and there you go. Top answer is -15.
And that is correct. And that actually goes into criteria for areas outside of the mountains for winter or wind chill warnings. So just be aware of that in case you see any of those type of products out, you know it's going to be a cold one. Well, now let's look into frontal boundaries. The reason I want to bring this up is because, first of all, one source of cold air is a cold front. What is a cold front? It's the leading edge of a cold air mass. So there's usually the cold front, then there's the cold air behind it. They always extend anywhere from a south to west direction. As you can tell right here, how it goes from Illinois and Missouri area all the way through Texas. And it's very cold and dry behind it typically. And the air usually comes from the Arctic or Canada. And also there's usually a warm sector. I kind of just brought this in here just to show in these warm sectors, there are times where we can see severe weather in the winter. So don't forget about that. We've had a few instances here in the past couple seasons. So, and this is just kind of an animation showing the fronts. Here's how they form and where they meet at the surface in terms of the cold and warm air. And then here's a warm front. You can see it's more tilted. Going into the actual frontal boundaries, one source of lift needed for precipitation development. Let's see. So the convergence zone between the warm and cold air masses, convergence zone is where your two prevailing flows meet. And then this will lead to a vertical movement at the surface. And that's where your clouds will converge and lift up into the atmosphere and form those clouds and precipitation as well. And then also the warm fronts, which they don't bring the cold air, but they are typically a part of any kind of low pressure system. And that kind of just gives a tidbit about those, about the warm front. All right, and then this is just kind of showing the actual passage of the frontal boundary. So anytime the cold front moves through, there's the cold air that comes in behind it. And once again, that's half of the equation. And then typically with any kind of frontal boundaries that move through, especially a cold front, you can get strong winds along it or even on the back side of it, and then in some cases ahead of it as well. So once again, cold fronts are a source. Mountain and valleys can also enhance wind potential. The change in pressure is called the pressure gradient, and actually that's actually proportional with the speed of the wind. And as the change in pressure increases, of course, our wind will increase as well. And moving forward, powerful winter storms can also bring strong damaging winds. Traveling can become treacherous, especially in larger vehicles. If possible, seek a sturdy structure during this time. That way you don't have anything flying at your head or getting knocked down off your feet and whatnot. Also, mountain and valley winds, they can also be pretty hazardous as well. So some of the products that we put out, one is a wind advisory. What is a wind advisory? So we need sustained winds between 31 and 39 miles per hour for an hour or more, and then or 46 to 57 mile per hour gusts in the same time frame. We also have high wind products as well. So this is anything that's kind of past an advisory. And for a watch, of course, that's where our confidence is, medium and kind of out ahead of the event. And then high wind warnings is when you need to watch out, and strong winds are expected to come through the metro area. So just going in, like I said, these are going through these fairly quick, but they are still a hazard for us in our winter weather seasons here in the Carolinas and Northeast Georgia. So flooding can be caused by heavy rain, training storms, or even snow melt. Snow melt, not so much around here, more so for the north and kind of out towards the west in the Rockies. So more than half of flood-related fatalities are due to vehicle-related. So it's where people decide to drive across flooded roadways and get swept away, and the rest. So turn around and don't drown, and never cross a flooded road when the yellow line is not visible. And here's just 3 basic steps to look at whenever there is a flash flood warning out for your area. So this goes into the depth of the water, and do you know what happens when there's a certain amount flowing? So if there's 6 inches and it's flowing pretty fast, it is just enough water to knock anybody off their feet, even me, and that's not a good way to carry yourself. And then 12 inches usually can carry away a small car, 18, 24, and larger vehicles. So here's some of our flood products we're going to run through real quick. So the flood watch is when flooding is possible. Flood warning is when flooding is expected. Now this is an emergency situation when you have flash flooding where water is rising rapidly and uncontrollably and can cause catastrophic damage. Flash flood warning is not as serious, but still needs to be taken very seriously. It's just dangerous flash flooding that will happen or happen soon that could cause a lot amounts of damage. And then just running through dense fog as well. This can typically cause issues on the roadways in terms of visibility reduction. So you only have seconds to react in dense fog. So make sure to turn on your low beam lights, and also drive slowly with caution. Leave plenty of space between you and the vehicle, just like any other winter weather hazard. And also we can get freezing fog, which is where fog occurs below freezing and can develop black ice, which is the invisible ice that can cause problems on the roadways. And then there we go, reiterating what I just said. So here are the kind of 3 steps to do if you're in a disabled vehicle during dense fog. I know some people in very, very heavy rain or in situations like this where you just can't see as much in front of you as you feel comfortable enough to drive in. So if you ever end up in this situation, be sure to take these 3 steps. And then, of course, we have our dense fog products. So if anything like this is out, that means that visibility will be reduced to a level that will be hard to really see what's right in front of you. So anytime this product is produced, be sure to take the extra precautions for it as well. And Tricia, if you want, we can run through the other poll questions real quick. And that'll be just about the end of this presentation.
All righty. So here you go. That's basically asking you, what do you think is the most snow measured in a 24-hour period? And it occurred over Silver Lake, Colorado. Give it a couple more seconds. Watching the results come in. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this out now and share it. And look at that.
So
Most people are saying 75.8 inches.
That is correct. And I could not imagine any situation where I would want to be involved with 75 inches of snow in a 24-hour period. I think is there one more, or is that kind of the end?
That was all the poll questions I had.
All right. And then, of course, if you ever want our office to present for you, your school, group, or organization, we provided the link on the screen here for you to fill out the form, and we'll receive it and get back to you for any kind of outreach request that you have. I think for now, I am good with all of the stuff I presented. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll be sure to answer them.
If you have any questions, please use your GoToMeeting dashboard, and then I will go through here. I have one comment. Good job. Thanks for the information.
All right.
Waiting for any others to come in. We'll give it just a few seconds. Nothing yet. All right, somebody is asking, how far should the generator be placed from the house?
I am not 100% sure on that. Tricia, do you have any indication on that?
Most things that I've read and in investigating this myself personally, generally most folks are doing 10 to 20 feet. That seems reasonable, but whoever installs your generator, if you have a commercial, more like a commercial generator, they would know. But wherever you buy your generator from, they would probably have good recommendations as well. All right, any other questions? Are these slides available for us to download?
And we can make them available possibly.
Well, it would be difficult to post them on the website. Now, what we are doing is we are recording this, and we can send out the recording, but the slides themselves, that would be a little bit more difficult. I tell you what, for anybody that wants a copy of the slides, I would say to email Clay directly. Clay, if you just provide them with your email address.
Yeah, so my email address is clay.chaney@noaa.gov. If you have any questions or want any of the slides, feel free to email me and we'll work something out.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? All right, well, I don't see any others coming in. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you, Clay, for giving the presentation.
No problem, it was fun.
All right, well, you guys all have a good rest of your afternoon.